Good day, viewers. Welcome to the segment of our program, Politics Today in Nigeria. And we are going to be very specific. We are looking at the crisis in Rivers State, Nigeria. The crisis is actually not new, but when it erupted some months back, late last year, up until early this year, everybody thought something that would come and go, especially when the president was magnanimous enough to wade into the matter and proffered what appeared to be a lasting solution to the problem. And what were the problems? I think it dated back to the primaries of 2022-23 for the presidential bid of the People's Democratic Party, PDP. Because the outgoing president, Muhammadu Buhari, was from the north, it was assumed that the successor would be from the south, as a kind of convention that we have come to know in Nigeria. So some candidates from the south, they showed interest, including Nyesom Wike, the then governor of Rivers State. And from what we gathered, it was like there had been an arrangement that the thing would be zoned to the south. That's why a northerner emerged as the chairman of the party, the national. So believing that the presidential candidate from the south. Anyway, to cut the long story short, the primary came, and then Atiku Abubakar from the north emerged as the presidential candidate. Naturally, Wike felt somehow, and he alluded to the fact that they were not fair enough to them. They breached agreement, and then especially this politician from Sokoto State, Tambua, and the likes. So they now decided that it has happened. But at least, since the presidential ticket has gone to the north, it's only fair for the, the chairmanship of the party to come to the south. And so he requested for the resignation of the then national chairman of PDP, which was resisted. And the thing, continued like that. And then before we knew it, the whole five governors of PDP, withdrew their support from the PDP presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar. And what is so funny is that as much as they removed their support, they remained in the party. They didn't change party. They remained in the party. And while everybody thought it was just a threat to make sure they hearken to their requests, they stood their ground up till the election time. And they all worked for opposition parties. Some worked for APC. The one from the Benue State, Autumn, worked for Labour Party, and as it is, APC won. That's in person of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Funny again, in Rivers State, despite working for APC, the governor insisted that PDP, his primary party, should hold on to power in Rivers State. So he worked for a candidate in person of Sim Fubara, who happened to be his accountant general when he was governor. As a matter of fact, there were a lot of opposition to Fubara's choice. Some saw him as non-politicians, some saw him as not being in the line, or falling within the hierarchy that should be the next, and so on. But Wike stood his ground. He did all he could, muzzled all powers, mobilized, and ensured that against all odds, Fubara emerged. Not only as the governorship candidate of PDP Rivers State, but eventually as governor of Rivers State. All right. And he was sworn in and governance commenced. But not quite a month or two, we started hearing whisperings of disharmony within party within the government, within the state. And before we knew it, it was like there's no love lost between Wike, his seeming godfather, and Fubara, the governor. Before we knew it again, the members of the assembly, majority of whom are in support of Wike, they threatened to remove the governor. The governor, in reaction, demolished the state assembly, I think partly or wholly, demolished the state assembly to destabilize the operation, and the whole state was going into confusion. So the governor to now remove some of the appointees, earlier probably dictated to him by Wike, remove them or force some of them to resign. And then, so before we knew again, we learned 27 members of the assembly left the party, PDP, the platform of which they emerged as members of the state assembly and defected to APC. And so the argument now emerged that since they have defected, they automatically lose their seats. And some are saying that the constitution is not clear on that the defected does not automatically mean that they lose their seats. So there's a whole gamut of confusion. And to the pleasure of everybody, the president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, probably saw what was happening and viewed it as a very serious concern that must not be treated with levity. So he summoned all the parties concerned and stakeholders in Rivers State and brokered peace among them. Those of you who wanted to remove the governor, impeach the governor, sheath your sword, don't do that for peace to reign. The governor who, forced some into resignation or demolished the assembly, put a stop and allow peace to reign. And so they work out some peace modalities. And to God be glory, both parties seem to listen to the president, and there were relative peace in Rivers State. Until recently again, and the argument in some quarters is that some people must have instigated the government. This agreement you ran into has made you appear not to be in charge as governor in the state. That cannot be. So you must exert yourself. Tell them you are the governor, that you are in charge. And so before you know it, the governor ordered removal of the state assembly to be relocated from where it used to be to the premises of the State House. Of course, this is so strange to a lot of listeners and watchers, but that's the way it is. And on and on. And there are those who are saying that what Fubara is stepping into is biting into more than he can chew, that time will tell. And some believe that he is the governor. He must assert himself. So this and a whole lot is what is on ground as we speak. And so today we have decided to bring on board one gentleman who I believe has all the competence and the knowledge to discuss this matter with us and throw some light on it. Of course, we're talking of Dr. TUNDE AKANNI, who is a PhD holder on conflict resolution and media matters, which he earned from the Institute of African Studies, University of Ibadan, way back in 2015. As we speak, he's an associate professor and the head of journalism department of the Lagos State University. Dr. TUNDE AKANNI, welcome to the program.
It's my pleasure to be here at Dick TV. Good to see you, my good friend and colleague Garbadin, and our fine Adewumi.
Yeah.
The situation in Rivers State, as presented by Mr. Garbadin, is a very complex one. As a conflict expert, I have taken keen interest in the rivers matters since it started. And there are so many dimensions to it. The first natural thing that people are likely to do when a situation like this arises is to begin to apportion blames. But what does society stand to gain by apportioning blames to the characters in conflict? Fubara, Wike, the State House of Assembly, and other stakeholders. While all of these are fighting one another, the state stands to lose, and heavily too. Now, lawyers are already coming in, of course, anxious to feed on the situation. Some of them are coming up with the argument that the members of the State House of Assembly who have decided to defect in sympathy with Wike stand to lose their seats. That's another development. Fubara has come up with an exciting announcement to the effect that now the state IGR, which used to be 12 billion, every month is now 25 billion. That is something that should excite any serious citizen of that state. And that's happening in the face of raging crisis. So, where are we? Rivers State is home to the bulk of the resources that Nigeria thrives on, and that's oil. As we speak, Nigeria is not meeting up with the quota allocated to it by OPEC. So, underperformance. And the state, one of the oil producing states, Rivers, is so much in crisis. If care is not taken, it might degenerate. So, even what we are currently producing may even fall further. So, what exactly or how exactly should we look at the situation in Rivers? In the first place, the Constitution is not so clear about what the current status of those lawmakers that defected is. Anyone who can spare time to go through the provision of the Constitution on the defection of the lawmakers in the State House will see clearly that all of those provisions focus only on members of the Senate and the House of Reps. So, no one can just declare that because those members of the Rivers State House of Assembly decided to defect, they have lost their seats. No. Maybe we should leave the matter to the court to decide. But from what is in the Constitution today, that Constitution has not said specifically that members of the State House of Assembly, if they so decide, lose their seats. Now, commissioners are resigning in droves. I'm not sure Fubara has up to 4 commissioners left, meaning that governance is grinding to a halt. Now, the citizens stand to lose. The citizens, the Riverians, are the worst losers as things stand today. So what should be done? Because what should interest us, or should interest an expert like me, is the mitigation of the conflict in Rivers. How should we go about it? Not all hope is lost. We shouldn't think that way. We can't afford to throw up our arms. No. Rather, we must be interested in subjecting all of the parties to this conflict to critical scrutiny and see how we can come in. And coming in should not be a casual thing. Conflict studies provide sufficiently for solutionist intervention into any conflict, no matter how difficult. There is what we call multi-track diplomacy. Multi-track diplomacy is a web of interrelated variables, each of which on their own or together may have the capacity to mitigate conflicts in an average society. Multi-track diplomacy has 9 tracks. Foremost among the tracks is the government. And the other tracks comprise research institutions, educational institutions, non-governmental organizations, activists, professionals, the business community. And I just mentioned earlier that Rivers State is home to Nigeria's most prized export commodity, the black gold, oil. So we can't afford to trivialize the situation in Rivers. So with all of these elements that comprise multi-track diplomacy, I will say that we cannot begin to look at Rivers and see how elements that fit into each of these tracks can be brought together and weighed into the crisis in Rivers. I will say there are no elders in that state. That's the same state that Odili comes from. He used to be governor. Now, quite a number of elders in the age bracket of Odili. What is it that Odili stands to gain if that state is if state of emergency is declared in that state? So many things are going to go wrong. The citizens are going to record a lot of losses. The universities are there. There are conflict experts. And at the center of all of the tracks that make up the multi-track diplomacy that I've just mentioned is the twin element of media and communication. So the media have a lot of role to play because it is the media that feed the rest of us with information about the conflict situation in Rivers. And when we are fed with all of this, then we feel that we can offer authoritative interventions. But to what extent? We only depend on the media. What it also means is that whatever the media feed us with is what we also ventilate into the media. And then others also lap such up. So the media will be doing what? Helping to mitigate or exacerbate. What is our interest? To mitigate. What it then therefore means is that the media ecosystem in Rivers and elsewhere need to be talked to about the situation in Rivers. We know that this state is burning. But what's your interest in fanning the embers of enmity. In other words, the media that are based in Rivers should be more interested than others outside in mitigating the conflict in Rivers. Because if the state goes on fire, not even the media there will have the peace to run their business. And so that's the end of everything. So the media must be concerned. And the media must be particularly interested in ensuring that the information, whatever the source may be, that they are going to transmit into the public space about the conflict in Rivers shouldn't be such that we further accentuate or exacerbate the conflict situation in Rivers. No, because all of us must be interested in mitigating the conflict there. What exactly should it be that should make all of us feel desperate about the situation in Rivers? Fubara, that was elected, has a 4-year term to run the affairs of the state. Once the 4 years expire, he goes out there to recontest. If he wins, good luck. If he turns otherwise, somebody else comes in. So, why don't we allow him to do the best for the state? Nobody should underrate Fubara. And I'm not here to fan embers of enmity. Constitutionally, Fubara is in charge. Whoever is in charge has all the power to deploy. Unfortunately, he has had to give us some signals that truly is in charge. It was rather tragic that part of the manifestations of the fact that he is in charge was his decision to pull down the State House Assembly complex the other time. And when I saw him on TV, march through the compound of the quarters of the legislators, the first thing that cropped up in my mind was that, hey, is this guy up to demolishing the quarters as well? But we should not underrate him. He's in charge for now, and he has the immunity, just like other governors in the country. But I think what should interest an average citizen of Rivers is how the state will fare well, how the resources of the state will be so well managed in the interest of the rest citizens. I said the other time, I've said it repeatedly, that this guy is in charge. Wike, unfortunately, when he was governor of Rivers State, we didn't know the premise that that unwise statement was coming from. He declared that state a Christian state, to the displeasure of many Nigerians. For God's sake, why should somebody heading government of any state in this country choose to be diversity insensitive? He declared Rivers as a Christian state. Fubara has come to register it on all of us that, hey guys, I'm not a Muslim, but I know that the guy who was in charge before me was naive. So how much is it for an average Nigerian pilgrim to travel for Hajj? 8 million or so are paying for everybody. So the entire quota allocated to Rivers, irrespective of whoever is going, this guy decided to pay for everyone. But even those of us that are Muslims know that Hajj is not compulsory for all Muslims. You may choose to perform Hajj if you have the resources. But the truth is that with that single decision, coming from Fubara, he has managed to endear himself to the Muslims in that state. And whether anybody likes it or not, there are also very outspoken Muslims in Rivers. Where do we consign Asari Dokubo? And Asari, we all know, also has some reasonable measure of access to the president. When the nation the other time was unsure of whether Tinubu was going to be sworn in or not, and some characters were talking tough about the fact that it was not likely and that desirability of swearing in Tinubu and so on and so forth was not the best for the country. Asari mobilized his men down to Abuja. The president of Nigeria today, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is one politician that I reckon with as a very smart and deft politician. He won't forget any good deed from anyone in his favor. So irrespective of the fact that Wike mobilized as much resources as possible in support of President Ahmed Bola Tinubu to ensure that he succeeded in winning the presidential election in 2023. Wike should not underrate the fact that not even the entire country can afford to discount the Muslim population in Rivers. And it's not the only Muslim population that may likely be that may likely have some disaffection for Wike. So if we begin to also, do some thorough mapping, we will discover some more pockets of other population, no matter how minority, no matter how minoritarian they may be. We will discover some other pockets of populations in Rivers who may have some disaffection for Wike. So Wike should actually tread softly. He should tread softly. It is better to be moderate with whatever one is doing. Now the question is, where are the elders? Where are the rest of the stakeholders in Rivers? What has happened to the efficacy of multi-track diplomacy? The business interests in Rivers?
Sorry to interject, Prof. I think the development now is that all these stakeholders, especially the areas you are referring to, what we have discovered is a good number of them are coming out seemingly against Wike in favor of the sitting governor. And this will take me to what you are alluding to, that could we then say Wike had stepped on a lot of toes while he was in office, and those ones are now hiding under this crisis rather than bringing peace to pay Wike back a pound of flesh. Mm-hmm. But before you respond, I want you to quickly relate this to a moral question. That irrespective of all this, to what extent, what role did Wike play in the emergence of Bara? And connecting to that, the effort of the president at the initial stage to keep this crisis at bay and, proffer a kind of political solution which appeared to work initially. What has happened to that arrangement? Why was it being dumped? And people now prefer crisis as we are witnessing.
Well, thank you. As a journalism teacher and a media writer, if you have followed my media interventions quite keenly, you will have noticed that I have written more tributes as media articles than any other form of articles. I am someone, no matter how small the good may be that you may have done to me, I want to keep appreciating and reappreciating it. So to this extent, I am not discounting Wike's support and upbringing and protection for Fubara. But you see, when you are in a situation of playing the role of a benefactor, you don't necessarily have to do it in such a way that you end up making your beneficiaries regret that they have benefited from you. Fubara should be grateful to his godfather in politics. Wike, as the godfather, should be moderate in his tendencies. What is the interest of these two parties? The president initially could probably not have foreseen that Wike would support him. But Wike looked at the entire political landscape, and the gentlemanly agreement, like you said the other time, that was on ground that if we had a president from the north, then the next president should be a president from the south. And Wike, believing in justice, felt that, oh, why wouldn't we abide by this agreement or consensus? And then he shifted his loyalty to the president, with whom he didn't share the same party initially.
Yeah.
So, what all of this point to us is that interests can shift or change. Anyone can switch over to any side any day, depending on what he or she feels comfortable with. As far as I'm concerned, I think the interest of everyone now is how to mitigate the conflict in rivers. As a matter of fact, the situation in rivers is such that
to make it clearer for our listeners,
yeah,
I'm insisting that presidential intervention, are we downplaying it? Are we saying it is not reasonable? Are we saying the president shouldn't have even intervened at all, or that it's not his business to intervene?
Well, the president should intervene. We're talking of rivers being home to
the treasure of the nation.
The treasure of the nation. This crisis situation can even send wrong signals to potential investors. So, if we are going to be indifferent to the situation in any state at all, it is not a state like Rivers. Of course, we can't afford to be indifferent to any of the states, but in particular, not to Rivers. So, the intervention of the president is very important. In fact, we need more of it. The president needs to increase.
So shouldn't the stakeholders be mindful of this?
Well, they should be, but you see, it looks like in this situation, the stakeholders believe that, well, it is only the law that can coerce us to do whatever. But rather than just believing that it's only law that can force you to do whatever, my appeal goes to all the conflicting parties that they should, for God's sake, because of the rest citizens of the state, sheath their swords. What does anyone stand to gain?
Nothing.
From protracted crisis? Today is one thing, and tomorrow it has multiplied, and then on and on and on and on. It's not good for anyone.
Okay, before Adeomi comes in, this latest development, whereby the governor ordered the relocation of the assembly to the state house, to what extent is this legal? And how legitimate will be the legislative business carried out in such an arrangement?
Well, you know that the executive in our political arrangements often wield so much power than sometimes we can imagine. Fubara wants to do everything to suit his situation. What do the courts have to say with this? He will be waiting to be challenged. If no one is willing to go to any of the courts, then don't rule it out that he may have his way with whatever. But what we are saying is that, what is the legitimacy of what is being done? To what extent can this situation serve the interest of citizens and other stakeholders? There is more to the situation in rivers that meets the eye. Oil, the main resources from which Nigeria earns its forex, it should be a matter of concern to everyone. So, the entire country needs to get more serious with the raging conflict.
The river state.
It is not the constitutionality or the legality or such other.
That's why we always have this political solution alternative, which always work.
Yes, so political solution really is what will help us in this circumstance, and that's why I mentioned the need for us to resort to multi-track diplomacy.
Okay.
So, sir, I would like to make you go back on this. The 27 anti-government governors that pull out of the party.
Legislators.
Yeah, the legislators that pull out of the party. So since the constitution is not being specific about the House of Assembly members losing their seat, so what do you think will be the next step now, since that they want them to vacate that seat?
Well, the talks about them vacating for now remains domestic interventions. They don't have any statutory status. There is nothing official about it. All of such pronouncements are sheer opinions. Now, while all of these opinions are being ventilated, the situation in that state keeps degenerating. So it is not, we should actually de-emphasize the legality of any of the segments or dimensions or sides to this conflict. What we should be more interested in is how to bring all of the prominent parties to peace. All of us must be interested in doing that. To say that they'll be made to lose their seats, well, earlier on I drew our attention to the fact that what the Constitution talks about is, only concerns members of the Senate and the House of Reps, not the state legislatures. So now, if we are going to begin to contest this, yes, they will go to court, and then we keep on for weeks, maybe.
But there's this inference that by inference, whatever applies to Senate and Reps may automatically apply to the states.
Well, don't also forget that.
I say may.
So I'm happy that you are conscious of that word may. So it's not sacrosanct.
So what do you think will be the future of Rivers State if all this crisis did not cease to just relax on it, if they are not listening to the presidential or to the president on this issue? What do you think will be the future of Rivers State?
That is, what will be the fate of Rivers State if this problem lingers unchecked?
One possibility is that a state of emergency may be declared. And that will not be in the interest of anyone.
So, like you now said, nobody should underrate the governor.
Nobody should underrate the governor.
The governor should also not underrate the federal. Because if the crisis gets out of hand,
a state of emergency,
and you know what people could do in that part of the country, they are not like many other parts. They have a lot of power, mongers there that could do things. And if it becomes so threatening, the federal may not have, any choice.
And don't forget
that to declare a state of emergency, which is not good for anybody.
Don't also forget that Nigeria does not seem to have many friends.
Exactly.
If troubles fester for too long in rivers, don't rule out the possibility of foreign elements foiling it more to destabilize the entire country. That could be the window through which elements who never wish Nigeria well, they come in
to penetrate us,
to undermine us.
And God forbid.
So that's why we really have to, do everything possible to ensure that peace is restored in rivers as soon as possible. I don't want to envision a situation in which we are hopeless.
So let's go personal now, as individuals.
Yes.
Let's talk about ego. What does it cost these two gentlemen to just resolve? What does in the interest of the state?
Yeah.
I'm talking of years of Wike, the FCT minister, and the sitting governor of Rivers State, Sims Fubara. What does it cost them?
Ideally, it shouldn't. Unfortunately, I don't know. It shouldn't be something that is too difficult. They were friends. It was wicked that
they were not just friends; they were working together.
They were working together. Where you can work together and may not be friends. But
that's true,
you
have a point.
I don't have to be your friend if I work with you.
Exactly.
But they were not just
because if they are friends, they won't quarrel.
They were not just working together. They were also friends to the extent that he felt so comfortable that you are the one that will succeed me. And they must
have been heavy element of trust.
And they must have had some mutual friends.
Yeah.
What are these people doing? If they don't feel capable enough of settling the rift, they should also, it's a pity. I can't imagine this happening in Yoruba land. It's not possible. When Baba Adebanjo insisted that he would never support Tinubu to become president, Baba Adebanjo was not the foremost leader of Afenifere. Tinubu realized that in Yoruba land, elders have a way of managing situations. What did he do? Traveled down to Baba Fashionati.
Yeah, I remember.
Baba opened up his arms. My son, you will be president. It did not mean that Baba Fashionati did not have reservations about some tendencies of Tinubu. But in this situation, you are still our sons. Have you forgotten that the other time, when Abacha wanted to kill Dia and Adisa, to justify that his murderous intention, he invited the monarchs from the southwest, invited Alaafin, invited Ooni of Ife, invited Awujale, and all of them. When they got to Abuja, he gave them documents to read. Apparently, he prepared text with which they would condemn Dia. When they handed the document to Awujale, smartly, may God continue to increase the wisdom of Awujale. Awujale declared that, unfortunately, I didn't come here with my reading glasses. I can't read this. But one thing I just want to say is that please, remember that Dia is still our son.
Whatever I must have done.
This man, this guy, remains our son. And what happened at the end of the day? There was a divine intervention. Dia survived Abacha. So, elders in every society must be mindful of the future at all times. We should not put too much emphasis on the legality or otherwise of any situation Laws are made for humans, not humans
for law. Yeah.
Why, a man and his wife, who says they cannot quarrel? In fact, they can quarrel.
They do quarrel.
They do quarrel.
They do
But
quarrel.
that does not mean that they won't remain husband and wife.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't be difficult for Wike to call Fubara and say, well, my governor, I was governor, and I knew how much power I wielded. But I made you governor.
And you know it.
But whatever mistakes I may have committed, time to apologize. Aren't you going to apologize to? The guy will feel, he won't be able to stand it. Especially if some elders are sitting there and they call up Wike to say, Wike, even if you don't want to fear us, fear God. And why will it be difficult to say that, we are elders. We are elders, and even if Wike doesn't have a father again, he probably has a father-in-law. He probably has some uncles.
Of course, we would.
Is he the one feeding everybody? Even if he's doing that. So, our politicians must learn.
But Prof, recently, people have observed that the governor too is talking a lot. That as a governor, there must be some reservations and checks on things he say. Because talking about reaching out to the other, it does not cost him anything to reach out to Wike. It could be any way.
Don't forget Shakespeare, sir. He says, things bad begun make strong themselves by ill. No matter how patient you may be, somebody keeps hurling insults at you ceaselessly, and he persists, and the entire world is watching him. It will get to an extent, to get to a point where you say, I can't take this any longer.
Okay, talking about being pushed.
However, where the problem is with the two of them, Wike was governor, the leader of the entire state. Fubara now is the governor, the leader of the entire state. So they should know that they have worked their ways to some great heights in life. Now they are demystifying those positions. Is that what all of us should aspire to do?
No.
Is that what we should make our children aspire to do? Look, reasonable women, when their husbands get angry with them and they are talking down on them, they don't exchange fire for fire. They want to keep calm, especially when the children are there. They want to keep calm, allow the man to talk. They know that men are strong. But much later, maybe inside the bedroom, what those things you said the other time, now I want to engage you. And please, I want you to listen. The tension will have subsided. The other person too will listen. So we just need, to subdue our ego. You already said it. It's ego.
It is.
That is beneath all of these troubles. And the two of them need to learn to manage it. What is it that they stand to gain? Even if Fubara gets re-elected, at the end of the 8th year, he will leave.
It was.
Wike was there for 8 years, he left. Yes, he's now minister. Even if he remains minister for 8 years, ultimately we still leave.
Everybody will leave.
Everybody will leave. So what are we talking about? People, in politics, people are disagreed in the past and have come to reconcile. Ogule was not friendly to Tinubu before.
Oh, yeah.
But when the presidential, when Tinubu's presidential ambition came up, they felt, well,
at this stage,
whatever may have been a disagreement
belongs to the past.
Now we have to work together. But then George was threatening that he will leave Nigeria. If Tinubu
wins.
Tinubu won, Baba has revised his position.
So, I think it was a figure of speech.
Eh?
It was a figure of speech.
He didn't tell us so. Okay. Yeah. He didn't say so. So, but I mean, that's elders for you. Mm. When you speak in fits of anger, you know what you are saying. And that's why it is often advised that when you are angry, please speak less.
Or probably keep quiet.
Or keep quiet. In fact, keeping quiet is better, is the best.
Wow. So now, talking about resolution, because if you look at the argument left, right, legal and political solution, it ticks more to the political solution.
Yeah.
Does it now, are we now saying the president should hands off because his first attempt didn't appear to work eventually? No. Or he should not relent?
It is not.
And now, rather than relenting, he should broaden the dragnet of stakeholders that he needed to involve in the country's solution.
Because
as a father of the nation.
How did Tinubu emerge as the president? All odds were against him. Even the chairman of the party was not in his support.
At a point.
No, it was clear that Adamu was not in support. But after, now that he has become president, can he afford to be fighting everyone?
No.
Lawan contested against him. Lawan is now in the Senate. Will it not be petty of him to keep fighting Lawan?
No.
Ogbe orí erin lọ́wọ́, ó fẹ́ máa wá ìrà káàkiri. It will amount to sheer immodesty, sheer recklessness, sheer arrogance, sheer loss of focus.
Mm-hmm. You know, on the latter note, Prof, I am particularly interested in Rivers State.
Yeah.
I'm wishing that it resolves its crisis and there's peace.
Same
because
here.
That's where I did my youth corps in 1988-89.
In Rivers.
And the state was so beautiful, so lovely, so accommodating. I enjoyed my stay 100%.
No, you need to ask me. I did mine in Rivers.
As well?
Yeah, I did mine in Imo.
Okay.
But I was spending almost all my weekends in
River. Is the case with that region?
I had a senior. There was a senior of mine in the secondary school. He's retired now. He retired from NAFCON, National Fertilizer Company.
Okay.
He himself had a friend who had served with Hotel Presidential. Hotel Presidential in Port Harcourt retained him.
I know the hotel. Very close to my house.
So, meaning that I had at least two friends. Now, one of my classmates in Ilorin, Oladimiji Alaya, with whom I served in Imo, had a cousin or so who was an Air Force officer based in Port Harcourt, a medical doctor, now a lawyer. He doesn't practice medicine again. He's now into law. So every weekend, Oladimiji Alaya will come to me. Aren't you going to Port Harcourt? Yes, we are going.
Let's go.
How much does it cost? Before you know it.
I know you know I served with Nigerian Tide. It's a Rivers State.
Oh, newspaper. I know Nigerian
Tide. And they disputed their papers around states, adjoining states. Yeah. So almost every weekend, I will follow it to Akwa Ibom, Ikotekpede, specifically Uyo, Calabar, Aba.
So you had fun traveling around.
And Nigeria was very safe.
Yes. You know, after I did my youth service, when I joined the Concord Press, I became a member of the MKO Abiola Zakat Committee. And then the states where I was sharing Zakat on behalf of MKO were the 7 eastern states.
Including Rivers, under discussion.
Including Rivers.
So Rivers is always
So I
the
had,
center.
honestly, so I had extensive adventure in that part of the country. It used to be very safe, and you know, so look at how much Nigeria stands to lose if we are indifferent to conflict in that state. No, we can't afford to be indifferent or close our eyes.
So
we must get to the root of the crisis. We must do everything possible to mitigate the conflict.
I also appeal to all stakeholders, and even the president, to ensure that everything is done.
I wish that we can just casually decide to fly into Port Harcourt with his team, and he says, "Oh, today we are going to eat lunch with Fubara." Fubara, as far as I'm concerned, oh.
No, if action will just speak.
Yeah, so we have to.
Some action speaks louder than voices.
Yes, everybody must work towards.
Well, this is one topic we cannot exhaust in one sweep.
Yeah.
So, but we just have to thank Professor Tunde AKANNI, a very good friend, a respected scholar, a reputable journalist, and of course a professor of journalism at Lagos State University.
Thank you.
I will thank you so much for coming.
That has been here.
And as we always say here, we hope that when we call on you, you will definitely oblige us.
Sure.
Thank you so much for all you have done.
It's my pleasure.
We are very grateful. And Wumi Agedo, thank you for your time. Thank you for joining and being part of this team. You're most welcome. God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Nice being here.